Hello and welcome to week 15, the 9 virtues. Today's virtue is piety. Hope you all doing well. So let's get right into it here. Week 15, 9 virtues piety related requirement number 1. 9 virtues require reading our own Druidry. We read that last time, but if you need to revisit that, you can. Optional reading, reinducing solitary work into your life. There's a link. The Virtuous Life, 9 Virtues Study Guide. There's a link. And Where's the Belief? Piety in the DP, which we'll be trying to read today. Welcome to the second of the 9 virtues, piety. Piety is, of course, a second in the first triad I explained in week 13. The triad that corresponds to the priestly class. We all try to be priestly, don't we? You might consider going back to read through week 13's lesson to get a background if you have forgotten some of it. Homework. Our 9 Druidry defines piety as follows. Correct observance of ritual and social traditions, the maintenance of the agreements, both personal and societal. I can't even pronounce that word. Societal. Society? Yeah. We humans have with the gods and the spirits, keeping the old ways through ceremony and duty. Read through that statement until you think you understand it. In your Dedicant notebook, answer the following questions. Does that definition cover piety in your eyes? Is it simply attending rites from a position of duty? Or is there more to it? What does a definition mean by maintenance of agreements and duty? Do those terms sit well with you? If that definition doesn't sit quite well with you, head to your nearest dictionary and read the definition and what that provides. Write it down. It is strongly recommended that you include a dictionary definition in your final write-up. Do any of those definitions make sense? Can they encompass all that piety is? Now think of your own personal view of piety. Try to write it down in words. Feel free to steal phrases from a dictionary or a handbook if you need to. Can you come up with a definition of piety that makes good sense to you? Now think about people you know whom you would call pious. Examine why you think of them that way. Is it something that they know? Is it something they do? Or something they have said? Is it something beyond this? Can you just find words to describe it? Think about myths and legends from different cultures. How was piety shown in the myth and legends? Was there a character in a myth that showed real piety? How does that piety displayed? In Roman lore, for instance, Aeneas was often referred to as pious Aeneas. Do you see yourself as pious? Pious in some way, but not perhaps others. Not pious at all? Does one need to be pious to understand the concepts of piety, or to wonder if something is pious? There's a lot of questions. Can a pious choice or action be made by anyone? So if you answer all these questions, you pretty much have what you need for your write-up. Is piety something that is defined purely by action, going through the motions, purely by intent? Putting your heart into it, for instance, or both. Is one of those things more important than the other? Finally, is piety a virtue? Is it one that you agree should be on an ADF list? Why was it chosen? What is it about piety that either makes it a virtue or keeps it from being one? If you have decided that it is not a virtue, would you suggest another term, removing it altogether, replacing it with something else entirely? Now go back through your answers to these questions and form a response of at least 125 words to describe your understanding of virtue of piety. And you have your second virtue essay out of the way. Let's go to my thing here, see what the heck I put for piety. Let's see, piety. Definition of piety is correct observance of ritual and social traditions. The maintenance of the agreements, both personal and societal. We humans have with the gods and spirits, keeping the old ways through ceremony and duty. The dictionary definition is the quality of or state of being pious, such as fidelity to natural obligations as to parents, dutifulness in religion, devoutfulness. Piety is difficult for me, finding the time to do my devotionals with the short time I have in the evenings with my schedule, but I still find the time. Throughout the day, I make prayers and blessings to the gods, and before I go to sleep, I say good night and thank the gods and my guardians for watching over me. And I recently added my, guardian angels, because I got a few. I think I got 3 of them. This has been a nightly ritual for years, and first started when I joined ADF in 2008. Piety to me is not what others expect you to do, but what you feel is recommended amount of energy you wish to partake in your observance of honoring the gods. The 8 high days, moon rituals, and any other worship is the pillars in which you use to honor the gods, but more than that, it is a way for you to connect and show piety to the old ways which are now the way you live. What is the belief? Piety in the ADF. The Dedicant handbook refers piety as follows. We're not saying that again. Wait, something is missing here. Where's the belief? Every so often, ADF goes through an episode of what do we all have in common? We go back and forth, throwing around big words like can't pronounce it, or right practice and right belief. The majority belief seems to be the way what unites ADF. Let me enlarge this so I don't skip our words here. The majority belief seems to be that what unites ADF is not our belief but our practice. It is sometimes hard to understand why we take this route. In reality, there is nothing new to paganism, and it goes back as far as we have records for Indo-European societies. In discussing the Verdes in his paper Development of the Vedic Canon in his schools, the social and political... all these words I can't pronounce, I tell you. I guess I need to go back to English class. This particular passage makes an interesting point about an early Indo-European society. What it basically says is that most of the Brahmins of the Vedic world found the practice of ritual to be more important than the belief behind it. Some, of course, were interested in the belief, but the majority merely, as we would say today, went through the motions, as this was perfectly acceptable. Like Christians today, go through the motions, show up for church service on Sunday, and you got it all under control, right? The verdicts aren't the only example, and you can go further afield than just IE society in order to find ancient people going through the motions. Christ said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's," and there is no native Mesoamerican word for religion, and yet we have elaborated rituals and sacred centers. Things have changed though, and now piety means many different things to many different people. In some people, belief is the key to piety. To others, piety is about action. For many people, piety falls somewhere in between the actions of worship and the belief in the ability of those actions to recreate the world and connect us to deity. In modern world, we are more likely to be concerned with the belief behind what we do. Not only do many people who come to paganism cite that the members of their previous church had merely gone through the motions, but they come to religion with a renewed belief system that is important to them. Because of this, the idea of going through the motions as an extent of piety does not sit well. Yet others involved in paganism are more interested in their practice than their belief. They see ritual as pre-ordering the world, and thus a responsibility that they must fulfill. Like the Brahmins, who were faced with the threat of their wives dying if they did a ritual wrong, these pagans focus solely on practice, are more interested in getting it right than getting the feeling. To them, the integrity of the world depends on their correct observance, not their belief. ADF members are likely to know this split best as their pair of statements. Sincerity is no substitute for competence. And its corollary, competence is no substitute for sincerity. It says a lot about ADF that we are more likely to quote the former than the latter. These may seem like two divergent schools of thought that can have no middle ground, but many of us have found one. We believe that correct observance is important. So is your belief and your feeling. Piety generally deals strongly with doing a ritual for each high day as well, depending on the person. More frequent rituals. Rather, those rituals be daily or corresponding with a moon phase, but it also deals strongly with our belief that with the feeling that we get from those rituals we do, most neo-pagans, including myself included, that'd be Michael Dingler, I thought, yeah, he wrote that, are unlikely at best to continue working in a system that does not bring us fulfillment on a spiritual level. While it may have been good enough for the ancient pagans to go through the motions, it's no longer seen to work for the neo-pagans. We tend to want the belief. that feeling of religiosity that our ancestors may not have needed. It is important to remember that we need it, and we seek it out whenever we can. So while piety may be defined sans belief in a DP, it is never without feeling in our heart. It is up to the individuals to decide how much belief they need in these rituals. So there's that there. Okay. Next week we're going to discuss week 16, the third high day, holy day. That's coming up for me in February. So with that, we end another week. Let's see. Week 15, piety. Hope you all enjoyed this discussion. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out in Discord. So far, we have one member as of this recording, Shay. Welcome aboard, Shay. We would love for more people to join us, knock questions off each other, hang out, fellowship. So until next time, blessed be. This is Jason Romantic Pagan, signing off. Y'all have a good one.